right, hello everyone. My name is Diwali. Um, I'm glad to see you are all here for technical writing. I'm speaking to the future technical writers, right? And it's a niche that not everybody have been able to um, get a full grasp of the potential in it. And I'm so glad that you are open to exploring this niche. So let me just introduce myself. Adewale, I started as a data analyst and I play with some programming language for a while as a data analyst and some other tools in data analysis, Excel, Power BI, MySQL, Tableau, R as a language, then Python. So I fell in love with Python and I got into software engineering. So I started with design thinking, critical thinking. I went to a tech school called Semicolon Africa, where I got a full grasp of software engineering, even though I already had a background in data analysis and was writing partner for a while. So there I learned about design thinking, understanding the fact that before you produce a product, there's a way to think, right? You must critically analyze the solution you're kind of trying to build and see if it solves a problem. That's where design thinking comes in, and critical thinking helps you explore how you ensure that you're critically thinking through whatever solution you're providing. Then after which I've worked in several companies within and outside Nigeria as a software engineer. And then I fell in love in technical writing. I just realized that as I'm learning new skills, new tools, I want to share, right? I've known about this since when I was a data analyst. I just want to share my knowledge. And so that was what brought me to technical writing. I just started writing articles about any new stuffs I've learned. And before you know it, I started getting to technical writing gigs. Um, and from there, I've been doing software engineering with technical writing. So we'll be exploring what technical writing is. This just please note that this is introductory, right? So it's not a big thing we'll be doing today, right? It's just to give you a clear understanding of what it means to be a technical writer. And I can tell you for a fact there is money in technical writing. So, so for many people, they tell you that the goal is not to make money. I have the passion for it. But yeah, some other people are kind of like, oh, I want to make money. I want to make money. Whichever the case, right? There is money in technical writing, right? I've done gigs in dollars. I've done gigs in pounds as a technical writer, right? You too can, right? I think the advantage being in tech gives you is the opportunity to collaborate both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria, right? So I've worked with a lot of people outside Nigeria, and as far as the internet is there, we can always communicate, right? There are tools to communicate without having to be physically present, right? Coronavirus opened our eyes to the possibility of it's been there, right? I've been doing online meetings since 2017, 2016, right? But coronavirus just opened that, exposed that part of the work where you can communicate with people online without having to be physically present, right? So let's quickly get into technical writing. That's why we're here. But I just gave this introduction to make you see that it's possible. You can do it, whether your background is in writing, and you don't have to study linguistics or English to get into technical writing, right? Yeah, so we'll just be exploring the world of technical writing. We'll cover core principles and essential skills, and I'll be talking about some practical stuff you can do. So that's our objective, right? It's more like just to understand the core principles, the essential skills that you need, and the practical application of technical writing. And why is this important, right? It's important because technical writing will help you bridge the gap between complex technical concepts and a diverse audience. So when you're writing to people. People should be able to relate with you when you're writing, right? When you're writing stuff and people can't relate, you are not providing solution to their problem because you don't understand what is going on, right? So it's very important you are able to break down complex technical concepts for them to understand. So let's move to the next slide. What's the role of a technical writer? A technical writer is a communicator. You can't talk about technical writing and not talk about communication, right? Because technical writing involves communication, right? And technical writers are skilled communicators that bridge the gap between complex technical information and diverse audience, right? So you must be able to translate complex information into clear and understandable content, right? And you must be a content creator. Some people don't like content creation, but to some extent, you can't run away from it as a technical writer. Indirectly, you are doing that, right? Um, a content creator will create clear, concise, and accurate documentation that helps users understand and interact with technology, right? So you are producing accurate, concise documentation to aid users in interacting with technology. Let's move faster. Next slide. Yeah, what are the key responsibilities of a technical writer? This is very interesting too. Documentation is very important, right? You must be able to create user manuals, API documentation, not compulsory, but yeah, it's part of it. Training materials, another form of technical documentation, right? So manuals, API guides. Some people call API documentation API guides, and training materials. It's content strategy, right? You must be ensure that your documentation align with the project goals and user needs. You can't be employed as a technical writer in a company that deals with crypto. So, okay, so I've worked with a cryptocurrency company in the UK before. And even though I was managing the backend team, I was also involved in preparing documentation as a technical writer. So, and so the startup, they don't have much hands, and we're trying to build a solution that was in the future. So our clients eventually realized that they were not ready for it yet. So, I led the backend team, work on the backend, and also prepared the technical documentation, right? So I imagine what I was writing, I just wrote what does not align with the project goals. We knew what we're trying to achieve, right? We're trying to manage emission record across the energy sector in the UK, right? And I was tasked with preparing documentation as well, right? And I ensured that I'm talking about content strategy now. I ensure that the documentation align with the project goals. I know what we're trying to achieve, and I understand the needs of our clients. And that was so much how I prepared documentation, right? So we integrated with a third-party blockchain company in Russia. Is it Russia? Yeah, and they are the documentation, Billions team. You can check them out online. And the documentation helped a lot because it was also concise. So content strategy, just to ensure that your documentation it aligns with the user needs and goals. Collaboration, you cannot run away from collaboration, right? As a technical writer, you can't know it all, right? So you'll be collaborating with subject matter guys, experts, developers, and other stakeholders to gather information and ensure accuracy. Imagine so at the time when I got into the company, I had not worked. Okay, yeah, I've done some stuff around Web3, but I had not really get into Web3. So imagine I just wanted to stay in my lane and said, okay, I'll do this thing by myself. I would have written rubbish when I was preparing documentation, right? Or when I was writing an article about it. But because of the fact I understood the fact that I need to collaborate, right? I spoke to the third-party platform that were providing the blockchain services to us. I spoke to the key stakeholders in the project just to get a grasp of what we're trying to do, even though I had an understanding of it, right? So you can't do without collaboration. You collaborate with developers, you collaborate with other stakeholders, right? You collaborate with the subject matter experts, right? SMEs and let's move to the next slide. Essential skills of a technical writer. This is very important. You must be able to write. So the name is technical writing, right? So writing is very important. You must be able to craft clear and structured content. And as I said before, communication, you must be able to communicate. You can't be a technical writer without knowing how to do research. You must be able to gather and verify accurate information. You know what many people are doing today because we have ChatGPT and all. They'll just fill in a prompt, help me write an article about blah 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 blah, and they will just post it out there. I was watching, so yeah, I also advise you do this. It will help you stay up to date, right? Especially those in don't let me say this because not everybody here is a developer or anything, right? But I would suggest, right, that you stay up to date by reading articles, by watching videos. So I have some channels I've subscribed to where I watch some videos to get updated information about the latest tools and technologies out there. That helped me ensure that I'm up to date, right? So I was watching a video, a podcast about the world of tech today, and they brought in an expert. She had about 12 years experience as an engineering manager, and she was just talking about the fact that many people, especially technical writers, they don't do their due diligence anymore because of the availability of AI tools. They just take, yeah, I'm not saying you should not use AI tools, but make sure you verify what you're using because they were built by people, right? So I had the opportunity of working with a company in the UK that we were helping them to train their models, right? And in the process of training, they were paying us to train their model. So that means the model was not perfect. They had to pay us to train it. So it's not perfect, right? As a developer, I've worked on a lot of stuff and, you know, I just ask ChatGPT to just help me out. And I was just looking at it. I was like, is this model helping me or adding to my problem? So sometimes it's a case of you not properly providing the right prompts, but sometimes also you provide the right prompts and based on the way the model is built, it's still giving you an inaccurate answer. So as a technical writer, please don't make this mistake of depending on only AI tools. Do your research, do your due diligence, right? That's why the company is paying you and they're paying you well to do that. Especially if you are working for a foreign company, you get good compensation. So do your due diligence by doing research. You can't run away from it. And very important, problem solving. You must be able to address gaps in documentation. So let's go to the next slide. Types of technical documentation. Yes, we have user manuals. So user manuals are just like step-by-step guides for product use. We have API documentation, and the same way you have when you buy a product. So let's say you buy a fridge and you bought it on Alibaba and you're trying to get to Nigeria, right? When you get your products eventually to Nigeria, you realize that there are user manuals inside the box that helps you, you know, get a guide as to how to use it. So I remember the first time I got a device I've never used before. That was what saved my life because you know, how do you use this stuff? It was just very crazy. I don't have any friend that have used it before, and it's kind of like, how do I do about this? And the user manual really helped me. That's similar to what API documentation does. So when you have a software product, or when you have a software library, or when you have any product at all, when you have an instruction on how to use such products, that's an API documentation. Well, in this case, in terms of software, yeah. So training materials, you also deliver interactive learning material experiences for users by um, um, learning resources for users, right? So how do users learn? So for example, I can prepare like a training material for this course, technical writing, and as a technical writer. That's nice. Oh, wow. White papers. This is very interesting. So white papers are basically in-depth technical reports. So when I dabble into blockchain in 2022, sorry, Web3, and so please, I would suggest you watch the Web3 video, right? One of our tutors, Okikitu, that's the first session, right? It was so interesting for me because he spoke about some stuff that are very important, that whether you are trying to get into Web3 or not, you learn enough from it. So check it out on the channel. So white papers, I remember I was trying to get into Web3 in 2022. I first read about blockchain, and what I relied on was the white papers that were first released by the originators, right? It was quite interesting because I could get a grasp of what was behind the idea that came about what we are all fascinated about today. So white papers more like presents technical concept and research finding in a comprehensive manner. Check it out online, you see it, right? It helps you understand better. It provides in-depth technical reports. Next slide, we are out of time. What are the writing styles and formatting guidelines? Oh, very interesting. Clarity, just use simple and direct language. There is no point using all this jargon. What point are you trying to prove? We said communication is important. So if you are not clear about what you're trying to pass across, it's a problem. To be concise is very important. Avoid unnecessary words. Words that are not necessary, don't add it. The next is consistency. Maintain a uniform style and format. Then lastly, accessibility. Ensure that your content is usable for all, especially those with disability, right? Don't build your don't build your documentation for just yourself and people that. So edge cases, right? As a QA, at least I've also dabbled into testing, right? So I love learning. So I love to get into different niche and just see what it's all about, even though I might not major in it, right? So I've learned some courses about QA, that's software testing, and your manual testing, automated testing, and all. And it's quite interesting because I get to have an understanding of what it means to be in that niche, right? What it means to be um a software tester. So I'm saying this because of what I said about edge cases, right? As a software tester, you are checking out for edge cases that your developers might have missed out, even though they've done their unit testing, their integrations testing, their system testing. Some even go as far as end-to-end testing, right? They've done their stress testing, they've done their smoke testing, they've done all those other forms of security testing and all, right? There are still edge cases that they might have missed out that you as a QA person, you have eye for details, right? It's just going beyond. I was also in the session for QA, so I remember the tutor were talking about um, having eye for detail as a QA tester. Sorry, as a software tester, I mean. Yeah, so effective, I'm saying this because of edge cases, right? To be able to also mark that out. So what are the, we're talking about effective collaboration with subject matter experts, right? Understanding, get a deep understanding of technical subject matter. So if you're writing about um, Solana in Web3 now, right? Make sure you get a deep understanding of that subject matter before you get into it. Communication. There are some terms that are peculiar to Web3, right? That when you see them, you know, right? Decentralized, right? There are some keywords that you should, yeah. So being able to communicate effectively with subject matter experts to gather information is also important. So when you're communicating with your experts, you know how to communicate, right? Verification. Don't go and put yourself in trouble. Make sure that the accuracy of the content is valid by more like working closely with them. If you don't get them well, ask questions. Don't assume. I have a story I'll share, but we don't have time. Let me just go on. Integrating technical writing into software development lifecycle. Oh, for those that don't have background in software, I told you I went to tech school, so we're able to touch some parts that if you're learning on your own, you have missed out, right? You can check out Semicolon Africa. It's one of the tech schools that are doing great. They have a structure, a program that can help you learn from scratch. That was where I went to. There's Decagon, there is um Oh My Code and several others, right? So just buy what works for you. If you can't afford it, then just buy courses. If you can afford to learn on your own. I was talking to a Web3 friend, someone in the Web3 niche, one of the top guys there, and he was saying that when they organize a free program like the one we are doing, he noticed that many of them were not serious because they were not paying for it, so they didn't put in the work. They give them a free workspace, give them internet in Banana Island. You know what that means, right? But many of them did not, they were not serious about it. So they only chose the serious, they had to like weave out some people and just choose some other people. And they've stopped the free program. So they still encourage people to come and to their workspace and use it for like and at least employ people to get in, but they've stopped that training where you just get free people because not everybody's serious about what they're trying to do, right? But please take advantage of this free stuff. What we are teaching is what people are paying a lot of money for. So you can check out platforms. So I was trying to say that when I attended tech school, they took us through software engineering, and this one of the important stuff that I spoke about is software development lifecycle. So whether you're a software engineer or not, or whether you're in the software space or not, whether you're a project manager, technical project manager, whether you are a QA, if you are in the tech space, you should know software development lifecycle. Right, but in peculiarity to technical writing, that's an assignment I'm giving you. Go and read about it. In peculiarity to technical writing, planning. So make sure you collaborate with developers and product managers to define documentation requirements. So I know that there's what we call requirement document. When I was Big Bank, um, I enjoy working with Stanbic Bank because before I work on any project, the um, requirement document is available. So when I was at Stanbic Bank, developers were able to relate to these, right? I was exposed to a legacy. So most of the subjects there's at that when I was there was like they were legacy projects. What are legacy projects? Code that have been there for a very long time. So what makes your bank work effectively? They are still using. I know as of now, Stanbic has like migrated to latest. I was part of those that migrated some of their services to the recent ones people are using now, right? But I saw what I saw Apache coming for the first time I working in Stanbic Bank, and it was more like something new. But the documentation helped me. right? And I'm sure that the technical writers might have collaborated with developers and product managers to understand how Apache Camel works, Camel context, and all the flow to your code. Oh, sorry, let's come back to technical writing. Development, very important, right? When the requirement document is ready. So I was just complimenting Stanley Bank because they always ensure that their user story before you start working on projects. I believe that's still the case as of today. So development, just create and maintain the documentation alongside software development, right? Yeah. Development is you are building the product. You've done your planning, you've done your requirement gathering, you've done your designs, both software architectural design. I'm doing your assignment for you already. I'm telling you what I asked you to read about. Nah. So let's move on. Testing. So you must incorporate user feedback. So when you build a product, the product is being tested, right? So you must incorporate user feedback and ensure documentation aligned with the latest products. And release, right? That's more like when you are publishing your documentation alongside the software release and updates, right? Let's go to the next slide. Tools and technologies in technical writing. There are plenty of them, but just so we will stay here. Authoring tools, so specialized software for creating technical documentation. Some example are Markdown, Docs as a code. I've used all those. Version control systems, very popular ones are Git, SVN. So they're more like help you. What are version control system? I'm so sorry. They help you track changes. So when you make changes, you can see how the changes were being made and who made the changes, when was the changes made, and you can collaborate on documentation, right? Git is an example. Git is like the a good example, very popular one. There's the UI side of Git. That's where many people know about GitHub. So Git is the engine that powers the UIs that you see, Bitbucket, GitHub, and others, right? So content management systems. So content management system help you organize and publish online documentations. Help you, yeah. So I'll give you another assignment. This is second assignment. Go and read about content management system in technical writing as a tool. Next slide, continuous improvement and professional development. So, as I said, I'm someone I try to read. Sometimes when I'm not in the mood to read, I had a tutor then when I was in the tech to Chibuzo. Is someone that used to listen to what's the name? Like he instead of reading books, right? He listening to those books. So there are audio books available where you can listen. So when he's walking down or when he's doing some other stuff, he just listening to those books. So I picked that from him. He doesn't know this, but if he's hearing this or if he's watching this video, he'll find out, right? I picked that from him where sometimes because I'm doing a lot at the same time, I can't sit down to read a book for too long. So I just listen to um audio notes or audiobooks and just get it. So stay up to date, whether through audiobooks or through reading articles or talking to friends. So there was a point in my life where I was going through a lot and I didn't even have the strength to read books. So what I just did is that, and that this was one thing I've been doing from school days where and my friends used to be very angry at sometimes because they see that we are telling you stuff and you are getting more than us. So the way it works for me sometimes is that before I read a book or before I read a subject matter, I'll first go and meet a few of my friends that have read it. I will ask them questions. What did you tell me what you read? Just summarize it for me. They will tell me this one will tell me his own, this one will tell me his own, that one will tell me their own. I'll combine everything together such that when I'm now reading it, it makes more sense. Right. I don't enjoy that with spoil. I don't like spoilers for movies, right? So let's say you watch this Lion King and you're not giving me spoilers. I don't want that, right? But for stuff like this, right? I also talk to people. I talk to experts. I have a lot of senior colleagues from different places I've worked, right? Into Switch. Okay, I don't want to mention places I've worked for some reasons, right? But I learn from them. We discuss, right? Just make sure you're staying up to date regardless of how you do that. One thing I also advise you to do, don't tell anybody, this one cheat code. If you are getting into the technical writing space, go to LinkedIn, search for those in the technical writing niche, follow all of them, right? Start engaging their posts, read their posts, retweet their posts, or repost their posts. Let them notice you. Go for special events in your niche, right? Connect with them. Hi, my name is this. I followed you because I admire what you are doing. I want to learn about technical writing. What will you advise me to do? Blah, blah, blah. Like that. They know you already. When opportunities are there, when you're ready to start looking for jobs, they will help you. That was how I got my first job in Ghana, right? When I was ramping up my tech training, I was on Twitter one day and I saw a company, Bismuth Technologies in Ghana. and I told you that they were quitting. They were not paying. This is another important secret. Don't tell anybody. Your first job doesn't have to be paid. Focus on getting the skills rather than the money. When you know the skills, money will come. No technical writing before seeking money. I have friends collecting $3,000, $4,000, even $5,000 as a technical writer. One was working with Microsoft at some point, right? So yeah, there's money in it, but don't focus on the money. It's not my first tech job, but yeah, one of the first jobs I did in tech, I was not paid. It was a remote job in Ghana. And eventually they paid me when they saw the value of what I was bringing. But at first, it was not a paid, it was an unpaid internship. And that really helped me because my next job, I already knew the skills, right? So when I was bidding for salary, when I was discussing salary with them, I just gave them one amount then. I mean like 400, 500,000, and they were open to it. Just imagine from 0 naira to 500,000. Right? So you too can do that. Don't focus on your first job doesn't have to be paid. Seek feedback, gather input from users, developers, and peers, and continuous learning. Invest in professional development opportunities. Don't stop. Learning does not stop. If you are even in the software space as a developer or new tools every day, that's why I always advise software engineers not to focus on the language, but focus on understanding how to solve their problem. I can use any language to solve my problem, right? There was a time I was working on a product, it was in Java, and we needed to move it to Golang, right? Because, oh, sorry, this is not for software developers, but let me stop the story there. Just make sure that you are open to developing yourself. Don't stop there, right? Focus on building yourself. I think we're going to stop here. There's a lot more to say, but don't worry, the second class will give more insights. If you've not been attending the classes, you are missing a lot because please do, it will help you. The third class will give more insight as to um what is the roadmap? How do I get from knowing nothing about it to getting my first job? What are the tools I should use? What are the people what are the people I should follow? Which YouTube courses can I subscribe if I don't have money to pay for cultural courses or academic courses? And stuff like that. Then the fourth class will talk about applying for jobs, positioning yourself for opportunities, branding yourself to be noticed. What does it feel like to be in the industry? So we are getting someone in the industry for a while who has worked with several companies that didn't carry that to come talk to you about it, right? So just watch out for that. I don't know if anybody have a question. As
Your teaching, it's enlightening, and I've learned a lot. But I want to ask, while teaching, you mentioned the types of technical documentation,
yeah.
and I want to ask, how will I know which one to use or when to use them? Because there are different types of technical documentation that you mentioned while teaching.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. So if I hear you correctly, you're asking when do I use each of these documentation? So I mentioned user manuals, right? Remember, I mentioned API documentation, I mentioned white papers. What's the fourth one? I can't remember. But I mentioned four. So different types of technical documentation serve
Yeah.
different purposes, right? So when do I use user manuals? You use user manuals when you are onboarding new users to a product or a system. When you want to provide step-by-step instruction for installation, setup, and usage. For example, a user manual setting up a new printer or configuring the software settings, right? Basically, the user manual, how do I use, right? Um, those are the kind of, for that type of documentation is when you're working in a business where you need to produce user manuals, or when they ask you, they will be specific. So that's why I say requirements are very important when you're working on a project or a product. The requirements outline what you need to do part time. It will guide you as to what type of documentation you have to prepare, right? So for API documentation, when do you use that? This is mostly with when developers need to integrate with your software or service. I remember when I was still with yeah, I think it's this Big Bank. We expose some of our APIs to be consumed by the external parties, right? And we have to prepare documentation had to be prepared, right? So you use API documentation when third parties platform use to integrate your platform. So for example, Paystack, Flutterwave, QuickTeller, There are several other expose companies that have exposed their APIs to be consumed, right? So for all these ticketing platforms you see out there or other platforms you see out there, right? You see that when you, let's say I want to buy a book, right? I go to your website to buy a book. When it's time to pay, they route me to pay stack. How does that happen? You're not a software engineer, but you should know how it happens, right? What happens is that the company that sells the book or that is advertising the books, they've integrated with Paystack on the back end, right? And how did the process went about? There was an API documentation provided by Paystack such that anybody that wants to integrate with their platform can already see it, right? So API documentation helps you mostly when you have open source project or SaaS platforms offering API access to developers. As I just said, you would use API documentation. So let's say your company said that, okay, we've built a payment gateway and want to expose it for people to use. Yeah, right. We need a technical documentation. You know that you have to be an API documentation, right? So API documentation more like you use them when you are providing details about API endpoint, authentication, request format, response format, usage, and all that. So I remember when I was with a company outside the country, in the UK, we were trying to integrate with the platform, but they did not specify some things in their documentation, like what type of request is it, a REST request or a SOAP request? How do I access your API? They are protected. So it was not detailed at all. That's why in part of when I was presenting, I mentioned that you must be concise, right? You must be clear. You must also be detailed for the end users to get what you are doing. Right. So the third one is training manuals. When do you use it? As you've asked me. When you're onboarding employees, customers, partner to a system, you use it. When you're providing structural learning modules for internal and external training, you use it. What else? So when you're conducting workshops, online courses, or course certification programs. So Amingo's Code, they are working on a project already. Amingo's Code business, right? They're working on the products and all that, and they have certification programs already. Coursera have certification programs. Um, Udemy has certification programs. All these they use training materials. So as a technical writer, you can prepare training materials. So, for example, a corporate training document on cybersecurity best practices. Oh, yeah, please check out the cybersecurity um video. Please check out the cybersecurity training video for week 1. I was there. Oh my God. We got in someone in the UK took the class, right? And it was very insightful. He's a PhD. So just I will not give you tips. Go and watch it. Yeah. So that's white papers. I mentioned white papers too. It explains technical concept. When you want to explain technical concept, you use white papers. Release notes when you want to announce new features or updates to bugs, you use that. Well, there are several others, but those are the ones I know. Yeah, I believe our time is up. I think I'm going to stop here. As much as I want to answer more questions, but come on, we need to go now. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I was thinking this is going to be like, but everybody was attentive and all that. Thank you so much. Um, just watch out for the second class. It will be handled by one of our tutors, um, Engineer Tolu. He has experience in technical writing, and I can guarantee you, you won't regret joining his class for the second session. Once again, thank you very much and have a good day ahead.